Good evening, viewers. Another episode of Guest with Nazir. Today we have a special guest. She is a teacher and radio presenter, but in life she has achieved a lot of things, and today we'll discuss with her. And today's special guest is Zaba Shoaib. Welcome in our show.
Thank you very much.
Please tell our viewers about your early days and your education.
Well, I'm a Sheffield person. I was born and bred in Sheffield. I had all my schooling in Sheffield, so right from primary up to secondary. So I did my O-levels a very long time ago, O-levels and A-levels at a local Sheffield school. And then from there, I went on to the University of Liverpool to do a degree, to do my first degree at the University of Liverpool.
So what subject you have studied in Liverpool?
I studied economic and social history because that was a subject that I really enjoyed at school. So when I was choosing what to do at university, I had a big think and discussed lots of things with my family. And as I was the first member of my family going to university, it was really, what would you like to do? What are you interested in? So history was something that I had a passion for, and specifically economic and social history, because I'd done that at A-level. So I wanted to carry that on at university. So the first year of my university involved me doing a bit of economics, a bit of sociology, and then economic and social history is what I majored in.
At the student age, every youngster have a role model or a personality to follow.
Sure.
At that time, do you have any ideal in your mind that you are going to follow this personality?
More than a role model, I think really it was my late mother who inspired me a lot to go to university and study, because she always used to say to us all, and me included, that education is something that can't be taken away from you. So you need to aspire to achieve as much as you possibly can within education, whether that's A-levels, whether that's O-levels, or indeed if you can go to university. And I think that when I can remember when I came and told her that I'd got into the University of Liverpool, she was obviously, both my parents were very pleased, but she was exceptionally pleased because she, it was a dream for her as well, for me to go. And it wasn't easy because when I left home for the first time to go to Liverpool, there was a mixture of excitement and hesitation. And I can remember at first wanting to just come home and wanting to get a transfer to Sheffield, not enjoying it at all because I was homesick a lot. But my mother said, no, you have to persevere with this. You have to carry this through. Even if you want to come back every weekend, that's fine, but you have to stay where you are. So I did as my mother asked me to do and stayed at the University of Liverpool for 3 years and completed my degree.
In this scenario, I have a very interesting question for you.
Sure.
So how you manage to, because when you are a student, you're doing studies, how you manage about the food and stuff? Because obviously homemade food that
Sure.
versus you have to buy from the canteen or from the outdoor shopping mall. So
yeah, the first year I was actually in halls of residence. So what that involved was food was included within that. And at that time, it was difficult to get halal food at the university. So it was vegetarian, and the options for vegetarians were very limited at that time. So that basically meant that every kind of week we were eating the same things. But
so favorite food must be jacket potatoes?
Jacket potatoes, that's right. But I was fortunate because I had a very nice group of friends at university. And from day one, we became friends. We met for the first time, and we're still friends. And what we used to do is we'd get together, and if I wasn't going out, which I tended not to, then they didn't go out either. And we used to kind of cook at home, maybe in the flats that we were in. Because the second and third year at university, I asked if I could be in self-catered accommodation, which meant that I could then cook for myself and my friends.
And after uni, you did some job here, or you moved to Pakistan?
No, I did. I worked after I qualified, I came to another hurdle as to what do I do now? I've got this degree. What exactly do I want to do with it? And at that time, there was an organisation called SUMAs in Sheffield. And SUMAs were recruiting teachers from ethnic minority backgrounds. I had no kind of intention of going into teaching at that time. Didn't really know much about it apart from the experience I'd had at school. So a friend of mine said, told me about SUMAs and said, come along to the meeting, see what they say. So I went, and as a result of SUMAs, I was offered a post at 2 schools in Sheffield, 2 secondary schools, and it was a shared job in the sense that I did 2.5 days at one secondary school and 2.5 days at another. And I think I was employed there as an unqualified teacher, they called it at that time. And absolutely loved it. It was good fun, working with children lots of these children that I worked with at the time had very limited English skills, so they'd come from abroad, and not only did they have language barriers, but they also had cultural barriers as well. So I worked with a group of students, and I did that probably for about a year and a half maybe. And then I went to my head teacher at the time and said, I need to resign from my post. And he said, why? And I said, because I'm going to Pakistan, I'm going to Karachi, and I'm going to get married, and I'm going to live there. And he was sitting like you are now, and he said to me, have you been there before? And I said, yes, once. And he said, and how long did you stay there? And I said, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, something like that. And he said, and you really think you can settle in Karachi? I said, yes, I do. And he said, well, we had the conversation about 10, 15 minutes, and he kept saying to me, I don't think you can. And I kept saying, no, I can. So what he said to me was, he said, right, what we're going to do is we're going to not let you resign. We're going to keep your job open for you, and I'm going to give you 6 months unpaid leave. And I said, no, I need to resign. And he said, no, because you might go to Karachi and you might not like it and you might want to come back. Then at least you've got a job, which was very kind of him at the time. And I said to him then, I said, I will come back, but I'll be coming to work out my resignation. And he said, I think you're going to come back to work. And so I said, let's see what happens. So off I went to Karachi.
And in terms of, we're going back to the teaching career,
sure.
When you started, how you define your challenges you faced as a new teacher or newly qualified teacher at that time?
Well, at that time, because I was unqualified, I still had these sort of challenges of working in school, because the children didn't know you were unqualified, but obviously I knew I was unqualified. But I think the challenges were there in the sense that you had to get to know the systems from a different perspective, because my experience within school, remember, had always been as a student. And now I was the one who was responsible for students learning, albeit small groups. And initially they asked me to work just with a group of students out of the classroom. But I soon realised that I had a passion, not only for teaching, but also for learning. And I think that came across to my colleagues at both schools as well. And at that time, they did say to me, perhaps you ought to think about doing a PGC, which is a postgrad certificate in education, which would then enable me to be a qualified teacher. And I said, no, I enjoy this, I can come in at 8:30 and I can leave at 3:30 in the evening, in the afternoon. I have no marking to do, or very little. I have no reports to write. And then obviously, I was going to Karachi anyway. So we kind of said, I'll leave the PGC for the time being.
So how many years you stayed in Karachi, and what was your role there?
Karachi, I had a fantastic time. We stayed, I think, 5 years in Karachi. And when I arrived in Karachi, initially everybody said to me, why don't you, become a teacher here? Because there's a big demand for teachers, especially if you've come from England. And I didn't do that. I went to a couple of schools, actually, in fairness, and had a couple of interviews. But the reason I didn't want to take it up was because, ironically, the timing, of going into school, as you know, in Karachi, in all of Pakistan, the school day starts very early. So you had to be teaching from 7:30 maybe in the morning, and then it finished in the afternoon. And I was so used to sort of starting work at 8:39, and so the hours didn't fit in. So I thought, no, I don't really want to do that. So I was still thinking about what I wanted to do in Pakistan. And at that time, my husband was working for an advertising agency in Karachi. And one of their clients was Standard Chartered Bank. And Standard Chartered Bank had launched a product with one of their sister companies, Standard Chartered Leasing. And they wanted to hire somebody to market their products. And so my husband came home and he said, do you want to do a job for 10 days? And I said, what does it involve? And he said, well, you know, if I take you tomorrow to Standard Chartered Leasing, they'll show you the product and you have to talk about it. You just have to take phone calls. So I said, fine. So I went, and when I first went in, I was talking to them in Urdu, and the phones were ringing. And the first thing they did was that they put an ad of their product in front of me, and it was all written in Urdu. And they said, when the phone rings, you need to tell them about this product. And I said, I can answer the phone, that's not a problem, but I can't read or write Urdu. And they said, you can't? And I said, no, I can't. So they said, OK, just a minute. So they got me the ad in English, and by the end of the day, they'd offered me a job to work for them if I was interested, because, you know, obviously what they saw at the time, I think they liked. And I sat down and had a chat with them, and I said, yes, OK, let's give it a go. You know, it's a nice atmosphere. For me, always, no matter what job I've done, whether it's been teaching or otherwise, the atmosphere has to be right. The working environment has to be right. And because the working environment was right at Standard Chartered Leasing, I took that role on and worked there for 4 years almost, and loved it.
If we'll compare both lives,
sure,
how you will define in one phrase a difference between life in Pakistan and life in United Kingdom?
Life in Pakistan is a life of luxury. You know, if the situation, I'd like to say the political situation in inverted commas is right, then and is calm, then it's a life of luxury. And even today, you know, I always say to family and friends that if the situation in Pakistan, especially in Karachi, was different, you know, the safety aspect of it, then there's no place better than Karachi to live in, even today.
As a teacher, what are your few guidelines for the parents who are watching our show if they want to work closely and very closely with their children, especially homework or any challenges? So what are the best principles for them?
I think the first and foremost advice that I would give them is communication. They need to communicate with their children all the time, and they need to communicate with the school all the time at all levels, because without that communication, they're not going to know what's going on in their children's lives. They need to have that dialogue. So whenever there's a parents' evening, they need to go to that parents' evening. It has to be a priority. Their children's education is not just a case of sending your child to school in the morning and then forgetting about it for the next 4 or 5 hours because the child is at school. The parents have just as much of a role to play, just as much of an important role to play as teachers do. And they need to work with the school to ensure that their children achieve the best possible grades that they can.
So it's a rhythm of the combination, parents, teachers and pupils.
Absolutely.
If they can work together, they can achieve a lot of things.
Yes, it's a triangle, isn't it? It's a kind of a working partnership between children, the students, the teachers, and then the parents. And if they all work together, then there's no reason why children will not succeed.
We move forward towards your other very important role you are playing at the moment in Sheffield. So please tell our viewers about your radio show and your involvement in that show. Yes,
I became involved with Iman FM in October of this year, and I'd never done any work in media before in my life. And when I was asked by Shabir Mughal Sahab to do a programme on education, I said, what exactly do you want me to do? And he said, education, you know, you're an educationalist. I'd like you to do a programme. So we came up with the name, or my husband came up with the name, Dedication to Education. And I can remember going in to do the first show. And I was thinking, it doesn't matter if I don't like it, I don't have to do this ever again. And I did the first show, and I absolutely loved it, because I realised just by doing that first show the need that was there for our community. And the programme has been very kind of not been a challenge, but I think it's been a learning curve for myself as well, because I've realised that as I've done more and more programmes, how important it is for the community to become aware of the challenges within education, and then how they again can help their children, because knowledge is power, and once you've got that knowledge, whether as a parent, as a teacher, as a student, then you can use that knowledge.
So what is the format of that show, how it works?
Yeah, the format of the show is really what normally happens is the first kind of 15 minutes is a summing up of the previous programme. And the reason for that is because not everybody gets to listen to every programme. So I normally sum up what people have missed from the previous show. And then after that, I have guests. 9 out of 10 times, I'll have guests on my show. And recently, I've been working with 3 schools in Rotherham, the 3 schools that I'm associated with in Rotherham, and students and staff have been coming on the show every week, and they've been talking about their experiences within education, so that it's been an opportunity for the children to talk about what they think is important, what they think should be done within education, what their beliefs are. It's also given them an opportunity to look and understand what working in the media is like, so that if they then want to go on and maybe do some careers work within media, within the field of media, they've had the opportunity to do some work experience as well. And so far, it's been really good fun.
So what are your thoughts about the role of media and educating the parents specifically for their role working with the school and with the teachers?
I think the media is a very powerful tool, and used correctly, you can, use it as a tool to educate, as you say, both, parents and teachers. It's a tool that, because radio is powerful in the sense that you can listen to it wherever you are. You can listen to the radio if you're in your car driving. You can listen to the radio if you're out walking with friends maybe, or even just out with friends in a shopping mall. And by doing a programme on education, I found it useful because the feedback that I've received from people, and I didn't realise this, but there are different people from all different walks of life that are listening to the programme, Dedication to Education. And, they'll come up to me, and some of them have got children of their own. Some of them have, their children have grown up and gone to university and are in fields of work themselves. They're the ones that have come back to me and said, I wish there'd been a programme like this when our children were small or were younger, because it would really have helped us as parents.
There's a lot of talk in city about the underachievement of BME children.
Sure.
So what are those reasons, if you want to share with our viewers?
I think there are lots of reasons, and I think that one of the reasons are, first of all, is understanding, what the needs of students are, because every child has an individual need. And if we as teachers can, and we should, understand what those needs are and what those priorities are, and if we can aim to achieve those, overcome those barriers to learning, then those children will do just as well. Because it doesn't matter what cultural background you come from or what ethnic background you come from. If you have the ability to do well, which every child does, then as a teacher and as a parent, we should be ensuring that we do our utmost to take that potential out of that child and make that child achieve that potential.
And what is your message? Because we are proceeding towards the end of the show. What is your message, quick message for the viewers?
I would say to the viewers that, education is an important part of everybody's life, and you should use it to your advantage. It's never too late to learn. It doesn't matter how old you are. Education is always achievable, and you can always go on and do better in education.
Thank you for joining today, Zaba.
Thank you. I've really enjoyed coming on the show.
Viewers, we hope you have enjoyed today's episode. In coming days, we'll bring more guests, more information, more knowledge. Keep watching Sheffield Live TV.